All right. Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm very delighted to have on our podcast the next guest, Tim Peters, and he is the CMO of Guideline.ai. We're going to hear all about what he does, where he helps brands and agencies, how he helps clients to answer problem solutions that they're searching and seeking for. And he's been backed by private equity and venture capitalists, and I'm really happy to have him on to discuss his work. Tim, welcome.
Hi, Christopher. So great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to a wonderful conversation.
Yeah. And briefly, one liner, what you do, who your clients are, who you serve, and we'll dive into the questions.
Definitely. Yeah, great. Thanks for that. I consider myself the accidental marketer. It's been about 25 years now. I started my career in sales, carrying a bag, but realized just how exciting it is in this world of combining sales and marketing. And over the last 25 years, I started off as a business development rep, got into marketing and slowly climbed the ladder. And for the last decade or so, I've been a senior marketing leader, both at public, private, venture backed, and private equity backed companies, mostly in the B2B space and mostly in technology. And so I'm excited to share lessons learned there from the different chapters in a company's history, whether you're just starting off and you're pre-revenue to whether you're scaling. I'm hoping I can share some advice and tips and lessons I've learned along the way with the community. Again, my name is Tim Peters. The company I'm with is Guideline.ai, and we serve actually CMOs and, as you mentioned, advertisers and advertising agencies. We collect as much of the world's advertising data as we can, the spend data from the world's largest brands, and can provide compelling insights to CMOs and agencies, whether that you're looking at a certain particular industry or sector and wondering how much is being spent, or say the cost per impression or cost per a television spot, or you're wondering as we evolve into this world of digital where people are spending money, whether it's traditional television, podcasts, blogs, digital, YouTube. We have all of that information, which is a wealth of resources for leading CMOs and agencies. And I'm having a great time actually marketing a solution that's for marketers during my time here at Guideline.
Yeah. Fascinating. And I really love that. And so we'll dive into the question, what's really interesting is like Guideline AI. And I'm really curious to see, how does AI fit into what you're doing, and who are your clients, and what are they searching answers, or what are they frustrated with? What are they seeking answers to?
Yeah, so let me start with who our clients are. The world's largest brands are our clients, the CMOs, and also the world's largest agencies. And imagine a day in life for them wearing their shoes. You might have a hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on advertising, and you're trying to understand where you should be doing that. What channels are working? What are your competitors doing? There's just so many options out there right now, from traditional television, traditional radio, to billboards and out of home advertising, to podcasts, which is just growing just amazingly well, as we all know. And so more and more folks are advertising there because of the amazing engagement and hosts and creative folks like yourself. And so we help them understand, where are people advertising, where are people spending their time, where are people spending their money, helping them understand their category. You might be in consumer goods, you might be in cars or pharmaceuticals. And so we can help folks understand what's happening in their specific category, understand who's spending where, who's listening, what's driving results. And
Mm.
so that's who we focus on and support. And then
Yeah.
the AI component, gosh, we're collecting over $200 billion of advertising spend information every year. So where
Wow.
folks are spending those funds, again, across those different channels. And so we can use AI to help normalize that data and again, provide insights to those CMOs and to those marketing leaders, where that can be a challenge to try and process probably billions of data points on a monthly basis. We're leveraging AI to provide actionable insights to our customers, maybe recommending where they should be spending those funds. What's going to happen with things like tariffs? Could that potentially affect advertising spend for their specific category? So we're loving all of these advancements in AI and have some great partnerships with leading providers that are very well known. And yeah, it's just helping us deliver more and more value for our customers.
Yeah, I know. What's really interesting is when after the 2024 election, when there was a little bit more certainty, sponsors and advertisers, they were coming knocking, and then once this tariff scare back in March and April, it's just like everybody went quiet and scared, and but never a dull moment.
Definitely,
Um,
yeah, and we see that in our research that we like to publish and folks can find on Guideline.ai, the effects of tariffs and what happens a quarter or two later. But hopefully things are stabilizing and we're going
yeah,
to see more advertising investment as the economy grows. But there are some really interesting trends when you look at the advertising spend and the macroeconomics and things happening at a geopolitical level.
yeah. And so what I really is what I'm really people know a lot about just marketing and advertising and sales. When you throw in this idea of artificial intelligence, what the biggest companies, what should they be on the lookout for? What mistakes should they be observant when they're trying to scale marketing and advertising when AI is out there?
Yeah, I'd say, gosh, there's a lot of things happening. It feels like marketing and maybe sales were two of the initial sort of areas where AI vendors focus, where they felt there was an opportunity. So it can be a bit overwhelming, but also exciting. But when
Yeah.
I scroll through my LinkedIn, it's a lot of folks saying, I don't know where to begin. I could spend my whole day just trying to keep up with all of these new vendors and what's happening and who should I be following or who should I be piloting in terms of new technologies.
Mm,
But I think, gosh, you got to stay close to it. You've got to spend at least a certain amount of your day, I think, staying on top of what's happening and learning about
mm,
all these great AI tools. But
yeah.
there's just so many incredible applications, and I can happily name maybe three or four where I'm seeing success and it may be worthwhile for other marketers or business owners to take a look at.
Uh,
One would be market research. These
uh,
tools I'm finding can cut down days of research for me in terms of competitors, market opportunities, even campaign ideas. And so there's a lot of great tools out there that can really help scale, especially if you're a smaller business, do that market research or competitive intelligence. Another area would be content creation itself. So maybe doing research or first drafts of everything from white papers or maybe video scripts or show notes for podcasts, right? Putting together backgrounds on folks you might be having on a podcast. Again, not replacing us, but just helping marketers scale and do more, right? And work efficiently. So I think content creation, in that case, written content, and there's just amazing things happening. I'm going down the rabbit hole of video right now. There's so many interesting vendors coming out there where you can now prompt and create these commercial level, almost commercial ready, high quality videos. And so I think that's evolving almost on a daily basis. So I'd recommend look experimenting and trying to stay on top of what you can do with content, whether it be for ads or for videos, just amazing things happening with content creation as well. So those two or three things to keep in mind where AI could be applicable. And if you're a smaller business, it gives you the what you could have only done with a team of double or triple you what you might have, and then very applicable to larger businesses as well that just give you scale. You can do things now. If you're already creating content, take it and make it multilingual. There's so much you can do if you're a larger company as well, in terms of some of those examples I gave.
yeah. And a follow-up question I have for you is because we're extensively using AI for the areas that you're talking about, market research and content creation. And it's what about for agencies that want to grow and scale rapidly? How are you thinking about AI in guideline, or how should marketing and advertising agencies be thinking about AI to actually grow and scale in addition to automate and delegate, eliminate waste and
Yeah.
all of these practices?
Yeah, great question. Another area that may be worth exploring, and everyone's situation is a little different, would be around business development. There's some interesting ways where if you break down what maybe a human sales development rep or business development rep did in the past, there are ways that you could potentially deploy AI to help scale and automate some of those activities. Like you said, separate from, say, content creation. And so if you think of what maybe a human business development rep did, they would research prospects, find their contact information, maybe send some emails out after first trying to write some personalized content, phone calls. And each of those steps now, there are AI tools that can maybe assist with that. And also some folks trying to build platforms that do all of those steps. And so we're definitely always keeping an eye out on those technologies and seeing what might be applicable for us here at Guideline. And I'd recommend that as well to small, medium, large size agencies, that there are ways there not to replace your sales team, but maybe to help take away some of those $5 and $10 tasks, which might be looking for the contacts, right? and letting
Yeah.
them do the high value work, which is having strategic conversations with prospects and existing customers, which is what you want your sales team doing, not updating the CRM, not looking up people's email addresses. A lot of that can be automated, and you have these great folks doing what they love as well, and what you need them to be doing, which is closing business. So that could be an opportunity to explore aside from all of the great ways that AI can be used for content and research.
Yeah. Next question is, because we talk about marketing, is it's all of the principles that we were talking about are applicable to different industries. And so what is the one common thread that ties all of these experiences together, from, because you worked in charity farming, now in tech? What is the common thread that ties into your leadership today?
Yeah, thanks. I think for me, I have a real passion for growing businesses. I find that type of environment to be really exhilarating. And so, whether it be working, volunteering, and working at a not for profit and helping it get off the ground, or an early stage startup, I find that type of environment really exciting. And there's usually a lot of collaboration and a close knit team that you're working with. And yeah, that type of environment I think can be great. And it requires a lot of creativity. You might not have the budgets or the resources of a larger, more established company. So I think as a marketer, it also brings out the creativity in you in terms of how to break through the noise, get those first few paying customers, and then keep that snowball rolling. And so for me, I've really enjoyed that aspect of, yeah, the world of technology, the world of not for profits, is how can you go from 0 to 1 and bring hopefully what is a good idea that can serve customers, bring that to life.
A follow-up question I have for you is, because you worked with global markets, with Asia, Europe, North
Sure.
America, how does brand storytelling and what's working in modern brand building today that you didn't know about, or that you see that's coming in the future?
Yeah, when I think of earlier in my career, I didn't really have that understanding or experience that markets are very different. And I think being on the ground, if you can afford it, having folks in the local markets is just critical. You can have an overarching brand story and brand pillars that you abide by, but it's definitely different in every country, right? You have to be appreciative. If you want to earn that customer trust, you have to take on each market as something unique and special, and really understand their buying habits, their culture, and so I think that's critical. And I didn't realize that early in my career, but when you start to do enough traveling and maybe you have local partners to work with and educate you, I think that's something that really came about. It could be something just from how your copy or your ads are translated, various nuances, but you can't get lazy and just try and have generic campaigns globally. I think it's important to localize or regionalize your strategy and your content, and where you can have someone based in that market if it's critical to you. That I think signals that you're serious about the market, that you're there for the long term, which is also usually critical in many markets, that folks see that you're not just a foreign company trying to sell and take advantage of a market, but you're there long term and going to be a long term partner. So, yeah, get local, get to know the market, maybe find a local partner if you can't have someone there full time. But yeah, you can have an overarching brand, but if you look at a whether it be McDonald's or a Ford Motor Company, there are differences, and you'll notice them from what you might see here in North America. And so, yeah, get local, get to know the market, find local partners, but don't treat it as one global vanilla market altogether.
Really said. Earlier on in the discussion, you mentioned some of the platforms. For example, you mentioned blogs, podcasting, and I talk to a lot of creators these days, and a lot of them are saying you have to be on video and short form content. You have to be creating those two things, and you have to be on social media. In your opinion, what are you seeing? Because you have data from
Yeah.
worldwide, and what platforms or what types of media are performing the best?
Yeah, great question. We're really excited about short form content. It is just we all have these things in our hands, right? Our phones. And so it's right there at our fingertips, and it's just more and more something that it's becoming mainstream, right? So I definitely think folks should not be ignoring short form content. B2B and B2C brands. It's incredible who you're seeing on there, even from a B2B front now. And I think more and more we're going to see more investment dollars there. They're great digital channels where you can get attribution. So definitely, I would not ignore short form video. And whether it even be traditional longer form channels like YouTube, there's shorts. We're seeing what platforms like Instagram are doing as well. And so it's definitely something that has to be part of your strategy. I think podcasting as well, just fascinating. When you look at the statistics, over 500 million people are listening to podcasts. A huge majority or a huge number of folks listen to the full podcast straight through. And I think it's, gosh, 7 or 8 hours a week, I believe was the most recent study I saw in terms of how many hours people are listening to podcasts. So it's interesting. On one side of things, you have short form, instant hit content, but then you also have this great long form content as well, where people are sitting and listening to a full podcast that might be half an hour, 45 minutes, in some cases a couple of hours long. So those are just a couple of ideas, but I think definitely I would be looking at short form content, but also some of the emerging long form content like podcasts as well. Try and find ways to build your own audience. Treat yourself as a brand, and I think try and determine where your customers are as well, right? So experiment and learn, and then double down where you are getting traction, right? I think all brands, whether it be the demographics are different, but folks, you should find hopefully a channel that ranks higher, and you'll want to invest where you are finding you're connecting with your ideal prospects.
How about television? Because I have a TV, but in terms of watching like a ABC or Fox or whatever major media, I haven't tuned in over 25 years. But I'm on my TV. I have a smart TV, so I'm on like Amazon Prime or Netflix.
Yeah.
So where does TV play a role in this whole emerging landscape?
Christopher, that's a great distinction, right? There is linear television, which you can pull the signals out of the air and don't necessarily need a cable box for. And then you brought up connected TV, which is the Netflix, the Amazon Prime. And so there are really interesting ways and measurable ways you can get your message in front of specific consumers now. It's not just, gosh, pay for an ad and hope for the best. With the connected TV examples you gave, you can really be specific in terms of who you're targeting, where they are, and understand the analytics too in terms of the results. And yeah, TV, although we were talking a lot about newer channels, TV is far from dead and could be a great channel for folks, both linear TV, but also the advancements taking place in connected television. It's just incredible the type of targeting you can do to find places where your ideal audience, ideal consumers are watching television and to get in front of them. So it's a great point and yeah, should not be ignored at all. And just amazing innovation happening there through some of the examples we gave, like Prime and Netflix and channels like Hulu.
Yeah, I love all these like Disney, HBO Max. There's so many
Yeah.
Showtime. There's so many great channels content wise. And the another question I have for you is where does blogging play a role? Is blogging dead? Because you have Twitter and you got like Substack, you got email lists and newsletters. And but like I said, I haven't visited a blog in over since the mid 2000s. But where does blogging play a role in all of this?
Yeah, it's a great one. It's definitely transforming. You mentioned some examples like Substack, where maybe where blogging is moving to. Gosh, again, I think you have to start with your consumer or your prospect or your reader, and understand where they want to be. I'm a big believer in taking a multi-channel approach and letting them decide where do they want to engage and interact with you. That might be a podcast, it might be a blog, could be text message, video, as we discussed, and yeah, I think try and be and learn and try and be where your consumers or prospects are and innovate as you go. And I have no doubt we'll probably see 3 or 4 more channels before the end of the year that come on board that we'll all have to experiment with as well. I'd say definitely far from dead, probably more popular in B2B space, but they're also really interesting online communities, though, that are for everything from storytelling to paid premium business content that is similar to blogging. And I think it really depends on your unique situation.
And lastly, where can people connect with you and find out more about you and to seek the answers to their solutions and their problems?
Yeah, great. No, please come visit us at Guideline.ai. Lots of great free research we post there related to the advertising industry and media industry. And if you want to connect with myself on LinkedIn, it's just it's at Timothy Peters. So always great to connect with folks on LinkedIn if I could ever be of help, or you have some questions related to some of the industry data we're publishing about the world of advertising and media. So yeah, definitely love to connect with people, and would be happy to do so there.
Excellent. And thanks so much for coming on and giving a great fireside conversation and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Chris. I'm a big fan of the show. Really happy to be here. I'm Tim Peters, CMO of Guideline.ai. I just had a crazy, invigorating, wild conversation with Chris. We talked about everything from advertising to future trends on media, what channels are dying, what you have to keep an eye out for in 2026. Please tune in and learn about how you can grow your business, whether that's a startup, a scale up, or you're a publicly traded company. We have some great tips for you on this week's episode.